In Naruto, there are a ton of very powerful characters. And for the majority of those characters, we know their strengths and we know their weaknesses. We know exactly what they're capable of. And that is because the vast, and I mean vast majority of characters within the confines of Naruto are human. However, with the introduction of an alien race of superpowered beings in the otsutsuki, that got a bit more complicated. See, when characters like Kaguya, Momoshiki, and Ishiki, and Hamura, and Hagaromo, and Ashura, and Indra, and possibly Shibai got introduced to the Naruto timeline, the waters got muddy. But today, I don't want to talk about all of the otsutsuki. In fact, I've already made a video ranking all of the otsutsuki. No, today I want to laser focus in on the otsutsuki who I believe to be the strongest in existence outside of Shibai. Very new addition. We can't really even speculate about Shibai right now. There's like 4 panels on it. No, today I want to talk about Hagaromo. Hagaromo, also known as the Sage of Six Paths, is one of the most interesting characters in Naruto. Kind of a enigmatic character who exists in the spiritual plane and only shows up to superpower the main characters when they need a boost. Almost the entirety of Naruto's timeline was people trying to reclaim his power to use it for evil. And almost every single character of renown in Naruto owes the powers they have to Hagaromo. Madara's Rinnegan, every single Sharingan, Naruto's Sage of Six Paths mode, Sasuke's Six Tome Rinnegan. Every single one of these things is derived from Hagaromo's power. But when a lot of people talk about Hagaromo, unfortunately, they lowball it. They say things like,
"Oh, injured Obito said that he was on par with the Sage of Six Paths."
Or reference a manga panel where Hagaromo stated that Madara was coming close to his power. Or even go so far as to say that it took him teaming up with Hamura and 3 months to seal his mother. But I genuinely believe all of those are inaccurate representations of what the Sage of Six Paths is capable of in terms of power. So today, we're going to be answering the question, how strong was Hagaromo? But before we get to power scaling a ghost, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you don't want to see my career become a ghost, guys, go ahead and follow my other YouTube page, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking Naruto, I talk any other anime. Or if you like it when I talk about Naruto or possibly other anime, go ahead and follow my brand new podcast that I'm doing with Danny Mata, called Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny break down everything that happened in anime this week. So Hagaromo, depending on how you look at him, he's either the god of the Naruto universe or an old crusty man who just appears whenever you need him to. And I guess hypothetically, both of those things could be true simultaneously. But unfortunately, when talking about Hagaromo, you do have to acknowledge the fact that he's had a lot of different forms. Hagaromo as a being has gone through a lot of change. When he was first born, he was born with a Byakugan, like every Otsutsuki. And then those Byakugan evolved into Sharingan, and then those Sharingan evolved into Rinnegan, and then him and his brother Hamura fought against Kaguya for 3 months and sealed her away and pulled the 10 tails out of her and put it in Hagaromo. And this is sort of what made him the Sage of Six Paths. But the problem is, when you want to talk about the strongest version of Hagaromo, you really either have to talk about this alive version or the dead version. See, because there's a huge difference between these two entities. Well, some will argue that Hagaromo's strongest form is while he was alive, because that's when he had the 10 tails. And since the first 10 tails in Kaguya were kind of an amalgamation of each other, people would say that not only was he the Jinchuriki of the 10 tails, but also his mother to a small degree. And since it's been stated multiple times that a perfect Jinchuriki is actually stronger than just a tailed beast, and since Hagaromo was a perfect Jinchuriki of the 10 tails, in this form he would not only be stronger than the 10 tails, he would also possibly be stronger than his mother. Because once again, I'll remind you that the 10 tails and Kaguya are kind of the same entity in the early days of Naruto. But let's ignore that Kaguya bit for a second because it's kind of speculation. The original 10 tails was said to have terraformed the earth, to have shot up the mountains and split the oceans. The entire geography of the earth was created by the 10 tails, who was able to summon violent storms with just a roar, which we actually now know is Shinjutsu. See, the real reason we're tapping into this video today is because I've realized there's a lot of similarities between Hagaromo and Shibai Otsutsuki. So is the 10 tails ability to terraform an earth and summon storms with a roar a Shinjutsu? Well, considering the fact that one of the Shinjutsu that it's stated that Shibai is able to use is summon storms with a roar, kind of makes it hard for me to believe that the 10 tails aren't capable of using Shinjutsu, at least within the capacity of summoning a storm. But if there's one similarity between Shibai's Shinjutsu and 10 tails, then I could assume that there would be more. But even if the 10 tails is only able to use one Shinjutsu, and that's the ability to summon a storm with a roar, that's still saying a lot. As Momoshiki stated in chapter 76 of Boruto, that every single ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu technique is simply a hollow facsimile of shinjutsu. Humans and otsutsuki alike scrambling to try to recreate the shinjutsu that Shibai uses. And since the otsutsuki are the people who create the Ten Tails, it would make sense that if anybody else was going to have shinjutsu, it would be the Ten Tails or other otsutsuki. So here's the thing though, as the perfect Jinchuriki of this Ten Tails, Hagaromo would be stronger than that Ten Tails, which would mean that Hagaromo would not only have access to the shinjutsu that the Ten Tails has access to, but also access to a myriad of additional powers that come along with being a perfect Jinchuriki. So I can absolutely understand why people would argue that this is the strongest ever version of Hagaromo, because upon his death, Hagaromo splits up the power of the Ten Tails into the Nine-Tailed Beasts, and then he separates that power from himself. However, upon Hagaromo's death, he does kind of get a massive upgrade in strength, at least so far as we can deduce. But before I talk about that post-death version, I do want to kind of power scale the pre-death version. Talk about some of the things we know about Hagaromo, some of the abilities he had, and kind of get a marker on where he was before he died, because we have to know who he was to now know who he is. The thing about Hagaromo is that when you're talking about him, really the only category you need to talk about is hacks. I mean, the man has the biggest bag of goodies possible, because remember, every single ninjutsu is basically a descendant from him. He is considered the father of ninjutsu, which has led people like Ibiki to speculate that there's no jutsu he couldn't use. And quite honestly, I tend to agree, because mind you, not only has Hagaromo had all 4 dojutsu, that being the Byakugan, the Sharingan, the Rinnegan, and the Rinne Sharingan. Listen, I know there's other dojutsu like the Ketsei I've literally done a video explaining every single dojutsu in the show, but he's got all the important ones, okay? And I'm sure if he wanted to, he could have a Ketsei or any of the other dojutsu. He could even have the Tenseigan if he took the Byakugan of a Hyuga clan member. But on top of that, he also has every single chakra nature and perfect control over yin-yang release. And mind you, those with perfect control over yin-yang release can create any Kekkei Genkai they want to. This is why Sasuke is now able to use things like ice release, and why Naruto should absolutely be able to use wood release. So yeah, basically any ninjutsu, senjutsu, taijutsu, or genjutsu you can think of, Hagaromo can probably use, and most likely at a higher proficiency than anybody that we've ever seen use it before. On top of that, considering the fact that the only way a human can awaken a Rinnegan is by essentially acquiring his blood and or chakra through the medium of mixing Indra and Ashra's DNA and essentially recreating his DNA, we can assume that every single Rinnegan ability we've ever seen he had. That is to say, every single Rinnegan path and every single Rinnegan ability. That includes Rinnegan abilities that we believe are specific to individual people, like Limbo clones or Heavenly Hand power. Because once again, I will remind you that Madara awoke that ability by essentially creating Hagaromo's DNA, and Hagaromo gave Sasuke his 6 Tome Rinnegan. And in a databook entry about Sasuke, it stated that the 6 Tome Rinnegan abilities were granted to him by Hagaromo, which is curious because we've never seen Hagaromo with a Rinnegan with Tome, which has led people to speculate that Hagaromo's Rinnegan actually operate a lot like Sasuke's Rinnegan. After all, once again, Hagaromo was the person who gave Sasuke that ability, and therefore people believe that Hagaromo's Rinnegan have the ability to develop Tome and turn into a Rinne Sharingan if needed, which would make sense when we consider the fact that his Rinnegan were awoken from Sharingan. But since we're talking about Sharingan, there's also the obvious point that Hagaromo, as a dual wielder of MS, also has Susanoo. See, some people get a little butthurt over this point because it's only ever shown in filler that Hagaromo has a Susanoo, but his son Indra, who was said to inherit his Dojutsu ability, has a Susanoo. But since we're talking about Sharingan, there's also the fact that every single Sharingan on Earth is derived from Hagaromo's Sharingan. Because remember, Kaguya did not have Sharingan, and one could argue that Hagaromo had 2 abilities like everybody else, and those 2 abilities were a manifestation of his personality like it works for all the other Uchihas. This is the Sage of 6 Paths, the creator of the Sharingan. It would make more sense to me that every single Sharingan ability we've ever seen was derived from his Sharingan. But even if you don't want to give him that, at least he is a dual MS wielder. On top of that, he also has space-time ninjutsu. We know this because the 6 Tome Rinnegan he gave to Sasuke conferred Sasuke the ability to travel between dimensions. And after his death, it's undeniable that he has space-time ninjutsu, but we're not going to talk about that version right now. But since we're talking about things that he gave to either Naruto or Sasuke, he also has Sage of 6 Paths mode, the insanely powerful power-up that he gave to Naruto that allowed Naruto to tap into an ungodly amount of power and control True Seeker orbs, but he also has six path senjutsu, because not only was he trained by the Great Toad Sage in a perfect Toad Sage, as the Sage of Six Paths, he was also just a Sage of the world. And six path senjutsu is what Naruto was using to super boost his Rasen shurikens to counter out things like Indra's arrow. But these things aren't on a clock for Hagaromo. Hagaromo is always in Sage of Six Paths mode. Hagaromo, as the Sage of Six Paths, is always using six path senjutsu. Any ability used by Hagaromo is powered through senjutsu. He is in essence an entity of pure nature energy, which makes sense when we consider the fact that the Ten Tails is quite literally just a being of pure nature energy. All of the tailed beasts are just pure nature energy. However, the Ten Tails has no consciousness or will. It is just a being of calamity and power. And Hagaromo was able to direct and give purpose to that power, specifically through the medium of his most powerful jutsu, creation of all things. You see, we learned from Obito the first time that he used Izanagi that Izanagi and Izanami is just a way to grasp at the power of creation of all things. That through the sacrifice of something incredibly dear to the Uchihas in the form of a Sharingan, that they were able to tap into the power of creation of all things for a minute. This tidbit of info from Obito reveals to us that Hagaromo had infinite Izanagi and Izanami. Well, not infinite, but damn near. See, it's stated by Danzo that on top of a sacrifice in the form of a Sharingan, that Izanagi also requires a massive amount of chakra to use. And from this, in the fact that Hagaromo stated that he used the chakra of the Ten Tails to create the nine-tailed beasts, we can assume that creation of all things gives Hagaromo infinite Izanagi and Izanami so long as he has chakra to power it. That's important for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason being the distinction between his post and pre-death states. See, in his pre-death state, this Izanagi and Izanami power could be powered by the power of the Ten Tails. And considering the fact that the Ten Tails is an entity that's able to terraform the entire earth and use Shinjutsu, that's a lot of chakra. To pretty much anybody in the Naruto verse, you wouldn't get to see him use all of that chakra before you were dead. As it stands, I genuinely believe there's only one person who could challenge Hagaromo to a fight, and that would be Shibai Otsutsuki. But regardless of the pre or post-death state, creation of all things is disgusting in the way of it being very broken. See, creation of all things is the ability to manipulate reality. By using yin yang chakra releases, you are essentially able to give form to your imagination. And while we've only ever seen the Uchihas use Izanagi to rewrite their body is not dead, the fact that Hagaromo was able to take the chakra of the Ten Tails and give it form in the shape of the nine-tailed beasts on his deathbed, mind you, states that with enough power, there's nothing Hagaromo can't create. But if he has the ability to make his imagination reality, that is reality manipulation. So Hagaromo, with an infinite amount of chances, could make a reality where his hand is through your chest. But even if he doesn't want to use Izanagi, he also has Izanami, where he has infinite chances to place you in an infinite Genjutsu loop. But once again, like I stated, the chances aren't infinite. But Danzo was able to pull off Izanagi, what, 11 times? And obviously Danzo had Hashirama's cells grafted onto him, so his chakra reserves were pretty crazy. But even Hashirama's chakra is nothing comparatively to that of the Ten Tails, and more specifically, a perfect Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails, who also happens to be an Otsutsuki. And as if Hagaromo needed more hacks, he also has the Sun and Moon seals. A seal so powerful that in combination with his brother Hamura, he was able to seal Kaguya twice. Well, I guess the first time was with Hamura and the second time was with Naruto and Sasuke. And in both of these circumstances, Kaguya was the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails, meaning that simply with the power of his two palms and his chakras coming together, he was able to pull off a Chipuka Tensai that made two separate moons and seal his mother, one of the most powerful entities in the universe, twice. And as far as durability is concerned, there's really no reason to believe that Hagaromo wouldn't have an equal to or greater regeneration and durability than what we saw of Madara. Because mind you, the regeneration ability that Madara had to do with the fact that he was the Ten-Tailed Jinchuriki and the fact that he took Hashirama's cell. Hashirama's regeneration ability is because he's Ashura's reincarnation, and Ashura got Hagaromo's chakra. So there's no reason for us to assume that Hagaromo's durability and regeneration would be anything less than that of Madara, in the 3 Rinnegan state. And more likely than not, it would be significantly greater because Hagaromo stated that Madara was approaching his power, not there. Honestly, even landing one hit on Hagaromo would be an uphill battle, because like every other 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he has the ability to control Truth Seeker orbs. And I'll remind you that Truth Seeker orbs are made out of the 5 elemental chakra releases and yin and yang, meaning the only thing that can be used against them is nature energy. Hagaromo didn't just use Truth Seeker orbs as orbs. Outside of all the capabilities of the Truth Seeker orbs, he also used the Truth Seeker orbs to create the Sword of Nanabuko, a legendarily powerful blade that was said to have created the earth and have the power to destroy it. It's stated that with the power of this blade, Hagaromo formed Earth as we know it today. And Obito claimed that with the power of this blade, he could destroy the earth. Now, if we're taking Obito at his word, that would mean that Hagaromo, just with the power of his Sword of Nanabuko, is planetary. But remember, this is just one of the weapons in Hagaromo's arsenal. And while we know for a fact that Hagaromo was able to wield the Sword of Nanabuko, one thing that we're not entirely sure whether or not Hagaromo would have been able to wield is Tsukiyomi, specifically Infinite Tsukiyomi. See, as far as we know, Hagaromo didn't have a Rinne Sharingan like his mother, but Hagaromo was also able to bequeath Sasuke a 6-Tomei Rinnegan. And it's stated that the 6-Tomei Rinnegan was a passed down ability from Hagaromo to Sasuke. So it's a possibility, while the majority of the time that we see Hagaromo, his Rinnegan don't have any Tomei, we have seen Otsutsuki with the ability to change their Rinnegan, like Momoshiki and Oroshiki. So to assume that there's a possibility that Hagaromo is able to oscillate between just a regular Rinnegan, a 6-Tomei Rinnegan, or even possibly a Rinne Sharingan isn't crazy. And since the capabilities of the 6-Tomei Rinnegan aren't exactly fully fleshed out, we don't know if with the power of just the 6-Tomei Rinnegan and the 10 Tails, Hagaromo would have possibly been able to launch Infinite Tsukiyomi. Because while we understand that the 6-Tomei Rinnegan is not a Rinne Sharingan, as to whether or not it's incapable of bouncing itself off the moon for Infinite Tsukiyomi, we just don't know. And that's pretty much everything we know about his abilities before he died. But I said in the beginning of the video that after he died, he received a massive power-up. And in one degree he did, and in one degree he didn't. See, like I've already stated, on his deathbed, he split the 10 tails into the 9-tailed beasts, which many would consider a massive nerf for Hagaromo. However, upon dying, Hagaromo didn't really die. See, upon dying, Hagaromo ascended to the Pure Lands, like any ninja, or any human, I guess. However, what separates Hagaromo from every other soul in the Pure Lands is that Hagaromo's able to leave. Hagaromo is not only able to leave the Pure Lands, he's able to travel to any dimension he wants to, like Earth during the 4th Great Shinobi World War, and not only project himself in front of one person, but 2 people in different positions entirely, meaning that Hagaromo can exist in 2 separate places simultaneously, implying that he has transcended both space and time. But it doesn't end there. He's also able to summon people to his personal dimension, the dimension that he exists in as this pure body of chakra. And he's not just some kind of force ghost with no abilities. As we saw during the war arc, he was able to give his abilities to Sasuke and Naruto, implying that he not only still physically exists, but also can interact with any dimension he chooses to. And upon bequeathing this power to Naruto and Sasuke, it's not like Hagaromo disappeared, because even after giving his power to both Naruto and Sasuke, he was able to pull all of the dead Kage and those who were revived using Edo Tensei to the battlefield in order to pull their power together to teleport Naruto and Sasuke from Kaguya's dimension back to Earth. So not only is Hagaromo able to leave the Pure Lands and travel to whatever dimension he wants, he's also able to pull other souls out of individual dimensions and bring them to him. Now, the logical question here is, why did he need all of the Kage to summon Naruto and Sasuke back? Did he not have the power to do it himself? And while that definitely is one of the possibilities, I think the more likely possibility is the fact that all of these Kages were the best representation of humanity's most powerful weapons. Driven, incredibly powerful ninja with a deep connection to Earth. And thus, all of these Kages acted as an anchor point to allow them all to reach out into the universe, find Naruto and Sasuke, and pull them back. But regardless of whether or not he actually needed the power of all of these Kages to summon Naruto and Sasuke back, the fact that he was able to reach into the Pure Lands and pull out these souls and bring them to Earth implies he's multidimensional. His full chakra body has the ability to manipulate multiple dimensions. And the reason that we're talking about this today is because this is very similar to Shibai Otsutsuki. See, in essence, when Hagaromo died, he abandoned his physical body to exist in his own dimension as a full chakra being that would never expire or run out of chakra, because it's largely implied that Hagaromo is infinitely powered by the energy of the Pure Lands, meaning that even though he's lost his 10 tails, he still derives power from the Pure Lands as a chakra ghost. And the Pure Lands, being Naruto canonical heaven, are infinitely powered. There's no limit on the energy you can derive from heaven. And thus, it's hard to not see the similarities between Shibai Otsutsuki, who gave up his body to become the perfect being, and Hagaromo, who passed away to become, arguably, the perfect being. Because the fact that he's able to convey these abilities to Naruto and Sasuke implies that Hagaromo, even as a chakra ghost, still has whatever abilities he had while he was alive. And while his body may not be truly physical, it still exists. Now, instead of being powered by something physical like the 10 tails, he's able to be powered by the Pure Lands, which are a concept. Well, actually, I guess within the confines of Naruto, it's a place. So while I do believe that post-death Hagaromo is significantly more powerful than pre-death Hagaromo, pre-death Hagaromo is substantially easier to scale than post-death Hagaromo. Because how do you scale somebody who may be infinitely powered, has no physical body, and has the ability to control reality endlessly? You don't. That's just kind of God. And for all intents and purposes, that's what post-death Hagaromo is. He's a chakra entity that exists in his own dimension with the ability to interact with multiple dimensions and change reality. And he can change reality so long as he has energy. But since his energy tap is quite literally the Pure Lands, which is heaven, he has infinite energy. And considering the fact that he may or may not have a physical body and more just exist as a concept, a tangible concept, but a concept, things like durability and defensive power don't really make sense. And that's really the real reason I wanted to have today's conversation, because we're likely going to have this same conversation about Shibai Otsutsuki in about a year when he becomes the antagonist of Boruto. And people are going to ask the question,
How do you attack something without a physical body that exists in a dimension of its own?
now am I sitting here and speculating that Hagaromo is as strong as Shibai Otsutsuki? I genuinely don't know. There's no way for us to calculate how strong Shibai is. But what I am saying is that if you're to highball Hagaromo, he's technically boundless. A multi-dimensional, impossible to kill, reality manipulating force ghost? Yeah, you can't really touch that. But if you're to lowball Hagaromo, or even possibly just try and play it a little bit more realistic, based off what we know about the Sword of Nunabuko, you could say that his attack power is planetary to planetary plus. Based on the fact that we saw Naruto in his Kurama cloak form tank an attack that cut the moon in half from Toneri, and that the Susanoo is considered to be the perfect defensive jutsu, stronger defensively than Naruto's Kurama cloak, especially if Hagaromo is the one using it, we can assume that his defensive power is somewhere from small planet to planet. Considering the fact that in his pre-death form, he was the perfect Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, and also a Senjutsu master, able to pull in from all of the energy on Earth, his stamina is basically irrelevant. He fought against Kaguya for 3 months straight. His durability, even pre-death, is also probably irrelevant, as so long as he has stamina, he has infinite Izanagi, which means doesn't matter how many times you kill him, maim him, or injure him, he can just erase it. But if you want to significantly lowball him here, you could say his durability is comparable to Jubidara. And as far as hacks go, he's got all of them. That's what the majority of this video was about. So that leaves us with the one final question. How strong is Hagaromo? You have all the information I have now, so I'll let you make your decision about that. I personally, especially post-death, put him at the higher end, near the boundless aspect.
But Nick, if you put him towards the boundless aspect, why didn't he step in when Ishiki pulled up, or when Momoshiki pulled up?
It's not his fight anymore. When Kaguya decided to thrust herself upon the earth, it was Hagaromo's fight, because Kaguya is Hagaromo's mother. Ishiki, Momoshiki, and Shibai, nothing to do with Hagaromo. But what do you guys think? How strong do you think Hagaromo is? Tell me in the comments below, and while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell.
Oh, but he's still not beating Goku.
I don't give a shit.